Hey everyone, I'm Sammy and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you the easiest way to flip a piece of furniture and make a quick profit on it. So let's get to it. This is the piece we're starting off with. I picked this up off of Facebook Marketplace for $20 and I thought it would be the perfect easy piece to flip, and this is a great piece for beginners. Now these are also my favorite ones to restore, and I absolutely love all wood pieces of furniture, so when I see them I've got to get them. And this one was in really great condition. It has a lot of scuffs on it, but not a lot of major damage that needed to be filled or anything. And what it needs is just a really good sand and maybe some new oil to give it a nice new finish. So I'm going to take you along with me as I restore this side table and show you just how easy it can be to flip a piece of furniture and make a quick profit on it. This piece was pretty dusty and it had what looked like some old residue, so I grabbed some simple green and a rag to give everything a thorough cleaning. You can use an all-purpose cleaner, maybe just some dish soap and water. Whatever you have on hand will work, just to make sure that you're removing any old dust and grime to prep the surface for sanding. Honestly, sometimes I do skip this step if I feel like the piece isn't really dirty and I can just go right in with my sander and it won't gunk up my sander too much. But this one, I just wanted to play it safe, so I went in really quick and gave it a good clean. I'm starting off here with a 120 grit sandpaper. Now a lot of this finish was already starting to come off, so it was coming off super easy with this 120 grit, and my goal was to remove all that finish with this grit before going in with a higher one. I swear, as soon as I start working or actually doing something, Melina thinks it is time to play and he needs some attention, so we needed to take a quick pause right here and give him some attention. See a squirrel? Is there a squirrel? Okay, go get your ball. Go get it. Go get that ball. It's all the way over there. After a quick break, I got back to sanding, and you can see here just how easy this old finish is coming off. And this part is always so satisfying for me, but we're going over the entire surface with this 120 grit, and especially on the edge areas, this is going to be a veneer. So you're going to want to be really careful when you're sanding the edges, because it tends to remove that veneer and then you see that lighter wood that is underneath, and we want to try to avoid that at all costs. But if it does happen, it's okay, and we can go back and touch that up later at the end. So you'll see in some areas where I'm making really quick motions with my sander, and that's because I just don't want to hold my sander down there for a long period of time, because that is when it tends to remove that veneer. So I'm moving over it in quick passes, that way I know I'm just removing that finish and not going any further. There were some spots I couldn't get with my sander, so I grabbed a piece of sandpaper and just went in and got those detailed areas that I missed. Like I had just mentioned, this is going to have a wood veneer, and so I was being careful while sanding. So this is a Dixie nightstand, and it's very common for Dixie pieces of furniture to have a wood veneer on them, and that goes for a lot of furniture coming from this era. They discovered this in the mid-19th century, that they could use a thin wood veneer over cheaper pieces of wood to make the furniture look nice, and it was still a sturdy and well-made piece of furniture, so they could sell it for a higher profit basically, instead of using a solid piece of wood, which would cost more to make. I finished sanding the base and then moved on to the drawers, and here I'm going in with a piece of sandpaper, and I'm making sure to wear gloves for this part since it's going to be a little more time consuming, and I find that if I don't wear gloves, my hands tend to get really rough and sensitive after sanding. So I'm just going in here along this groove and removing any of that finish, and then I'm sanding the rest with my orbital sander. Then I flipped all of them over and made sure to get the top edge of each drawer. I promise it really makes a difference when you make sure to get these detailed areas, and it really adds to the finished look. Next, we're going in with a higher grit sandpaper. I'm using my usual 220 grit for a last sand, and it's going to be a good finisher before we apply a new finish to this piece. You may have noticed I didn't sand the front edges of the base yet, and that's because I didn't want to do it with a rough grit of sandpaper. I thought it was a more delicate area and I didn't want to rip off all the old veneer. So I'm going in here with the 220 grit. It's going to be a little more gentle and it's going to remove all that old finish. Since the drawers were so small, I just grabbed a sanding block and a piece of 220 grit sandpaper and went over those really quickly with my hand. Then I went in with my air compressor hose and blew everything off to remove a majority of the dust that accumulated from sanding. I didn't end up sanding the legs because they were in such good condition, and I just went in with some Restore finish. This is going to help restore the color and also blend out any scratches if there are any, and make them look good as new. Next, I'm going in with a rejuvenating oil. This is going to help restore the old finish and protect it and moisturize the wood grain by penetrating deep under the surface. I love using oils to finish off wood pieces of furniture because it really just brings out the natural wood grains and tones that these pieces have. I try to get pieces like this as much as I can because they're just so easy to refinish, and I think they're absolutely beautiful. You just need to do a quick sand, apply some new oil, and they look good as new. I'm making sure to give this piece a thorough coat of this oil so it has enough of it to soak up, and then we're moving on to the drawer faces. So for the drawers, when I was sanding them, the actual drawer pull and the drawer face are two different types of wood, so the drawer pull was a little bit lighter than the other wood grain, and I wanted to see how it looked with the two different tones, so I'm first just applying oil to the drawer face to kind of see how different that color looks. This is what it looked like with the two different wood tones, and I actually really love different wood tones within one piece, but I know a lot of people don't, and I ended up deciding to go ahead and stain it to match the rest of the piece because I feel like it might be a more desirable look. I went in with a darker walnut stain, not only on the drawer pull, but also on the upper edge of each drawer. And I also used it on the edges around the dresser that I had sanded off because they were different types of wood than the wood veneer on the outside. So I needed to match those so they would be the same shade. Moving inside, there were some areas that I had sanded a little too far, so I needed to touch those up so they matched the rest of the wood grain. I grabbed my Varathane repair markers. These things are super easy and very beginner friendly. I usually start off with a lighter shade, apply a few strokes, and then build up and go a little bit darker each time until I have the desired match. To finish off the inside of the drawers, I'm going in with some feeding wax, and this is going to help condition and moisturize the wood. So I'm applying a liberal amount here and rubbing that around with a big bristle brush. An extra tip, if there are drawer glides underneath, it's always good to run over that with some oil so that they glide really smoothly. Lastly, I'm going in with some beeswax wood polish and treatment, and this is going to help seal and polish the wood grain, and it's just a little added extra step in order to help protect this wood grain. I'm applying this all over the drawer faces here, and I'll show you in just a second the difference it makes in applying the oil and not applying it. So you can really see it adds this extra sheen, and it really moisturizes the wood grain, bringing out the rich tones in it. I'm using this wood wax in place of spraying it with a polyurethane sealant, and I feel that it's much easier than spraying polyurethane, and I think it looks way better on natural wood pieces of furniture. So most likely anytime I have a real wood piece of furniture, I'm going to be using this wax rather than going in with a polyurethane sealer. You want to make sure that you're applying enough of this wax to give it a good layer of protection, so don't be afraid of applying too much because we're going to let this sit and then go in later and wipe off any excess. Now I've let this sit for a few hours and it was able to soak up all the wax that it needed, so I'm going in with a lint-free rag and wiping off any excess. And now it was time for staging. I kept this one really simple. This is a small piece and it can really speak for itself, so I added a plant, a few books, and a little candle. Now, before the big reveal, I want to remind you what we started off with so that we can really appreciate the final product. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video and you were able to learn something from it. If you're interested in a profit breakdown, I will put that down in the description, so go check it out. And if you have any questions or comments, leave those down below and I would love to get back to you. But as for now, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.